Hello, welcome. So I'm going to be talking about the goddess Persephone today. Many of you, of course, already generally know the story. Persephone is the offspring of who? Offspring of who? Zeus and Demeter. That's right. And one day she's kind of hanging around a field, right? And we'll talk about this in more detail a little bit later. And there's this very enticing flower, right? So she goes to pick the flower, and what happens? It's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland experience. Everything twirls around, and she is brought into the underworld, where she finds herself betrothed to Hades, the god of the underworld. Hey, but and so that's kind of, but the problem is Demeter's rather upset about it. Where did she go? So she's searching all over the earth, the corners of the earth, one way, the other way. And because Demeter's connected to fertility, the bountiful fruits of the land start to die away, right? And of course waste away. And as a result, obviously, we're moving into like a fall and into a winter, right? So with the help of Hecate, with her lovely torches, she is led to her daughter, or led to the discovery. There's a few discoveries because, the sun sees everything. Helios sees all. So Helios knows and sees all and says, guess what happened? Yeah, Zeus made a special deal with Hades, and gave your daughter off to Hades, and to live sort of happily ever after. Demeter's not really for this, and so as a result, we have this wonderful compromise where Persephone gets to be with mom for half the year, and during which time it's what period of time? It's the spring, summer, and then we move into where she has to spend time with hubby, and that is going to, of course, be the fall and the winter. Although, having said that, there's always a wrench in everything, because there are also stories where the summertime is considered a time of dissolution, but we won't go there right now. So let's jump into it. And I guess the best way to go into the topic is to take a look at her name, right? Persephone. It is a very interesting name, right? And of course, we're going to see various versions of it. You're going to see Persephonia, Persephatata, right? The Latin Proserpina, right? And, what's going to happen here is if we take an earlier form of the word Persephone, Persephata, right? We can actually break it down a little bit. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole story of the Indo-Europeans and the Indo-European languages, because that's way too long. I'm not going to talk all about, 5000 BCE. Those speaking a similar language started to migrate all throughout the earth. Not even a single word about that, spreading their language with them. But, however, there are certain roots that are common that we can look at, and we can find or detect it in the name Persephone. Now, remember, the Indo-Europeans, I am talking about it. Wow, what happened there? It's forbidden knowledge, apparently. Indo-Europeans are the Hittites. Indo-Europeans are Persians. Aryans of northern India, of course, the Slavs, the Greeks, the Latins, the Germanic groups, all Indo-European languages. So we take a look at the roots. If we look at this early Persephata, we take a look at this, we see the word perso, and a perso is a cognate for another word that is parsa, right? Which refers to a sheaf of corn, a sheaf of wheat. Now that's interesting. So sheaf of wheat. And then we take a look at the other part of the word, and we go, okay, so what is the yata? What does it mean? It means to strike. So it could mean the thresher of wheat, the thresher of corn. Obviously, you don't have corn in in the maize Mesoamerican sense, right? But we, they use the word corn in many academic sources for referring to wheat. Got it? So thrasher of wheat. Does that make sense? It does, right? Because it seems to be connected to the idea of the harvest. So that's a possibility, But in many cases, you're going to have also another etymology that the idea means to strike. And it could also mean the idea of striking, not in order to thresh it out, but to kill. Ooh, that wasn't good, right? So that could mean that she is a goddess of death. Ooh, fascinating. So from that one word, we have a few possibilities, right? But oftentimes she's simply called Kor. So Kor, that means, simply means girl or maiden. Girl or maiden. Now, Empedocles, which of course is a household name. Okay. Empedocles, they lived from 490 to 430 BCE. He discusses the four elements of the earth. Four elements. Excuse me. You got earth, air, fire, water, and he talks about the various goddesses that are connected to each of these elements. What's interesting is, in connection to the element of water, he places Persephone as connected to that particular element. And so we'll say, but he gives her another name, and that name is Nestis. He gives her the name Nestis. So he says, now hear the fourfold roots of everything: enlivening Hera, Hades, shining Zeus, and Nestis. Okay? Moistening mortal springs with tears. Moistening mortal springs with tears. I don't know about you, but that already sounds like a little bit of a lamentation going on. You hear that? Sadness. But she's also connected to the element here of water. That will be more important later on, but just something to keep in mind. The other part I want to bring up is the reason why Empedocles uses the word Nestis is because the name Persephone for him is kind of taboo. What? You really shouldn't say the name. And I kind of feel bad because I've said the name of quite a few times right now. But the idea is, let's use any other name other than Persephone. So that's why you have this idea of Kor or maiden instead of Persephone. Am I making sense? Yeah, right? Or Nestis. Let's not use this word. So there is something slightly mystical, magical about that word. And that's not, Empedocles not the only one that's going to bring up the idea of the forbidden nature of her name. I did get your attention, didn't I? Okay, so there you have it. I don't know what's going to happen, to me. Okay, so moving right along. Oh, you guys are all worried now. When it comes to, she's also obviously, in this context of Empedocles, she is queen of the dead, and adds, of course, it's not safe to speak her name out loud. Especially, behind Ipso Facto to an audience on the side of a parking lot. I think there's a special, I'm okay. I got a special dispensation for Persephone, so we're all good. We're all pals. And see, this protects me. This is my apotropaic device that protects me, so it's all good. Now, you guys just can't say it. So in the question and answer period of time, let's see if we can avoid the word. Yeah, I won that last. Okay. So who's the parents? Where does Persephone come from? Well, of course, typically, you have the daughter of Zeus and Demeter. That's usually the story, right? And so you have Hesiod. He writes as follows. He says, he, Zeus, came to the bed of the all-nourishing Demeter, and she bare white-armed Persephone, whom Adonis carried off from her mother. but wise Zeus gave her to him. I'm not sure how wise that was, but that kind of gives you the summation. Yet, there are other stories that she is not, in fact, the daughter of Zeus. Yeah, there's other stories, and so you're going to have some other legends and stories that has her connected to other gods, like Poseidon. Oh, right. We talked a lot about this Poseidon Zeus thing. So yeah. So many cases, Demeter is the daughter of Poseidon and Demeter. Who knew, right? So there are other stories, which, by the way, you get to hear today. So I'm not going to just tell you something and then just run away with it. But there's also stories where Zeus is the father and Demeter is not the father. The mother, excuse me. Sorry, I hear a car. I'm going, no. And that is, there's a story where Zeus and the female personification of the river Styx, the infernal river of the underworld, where Charon, the great ferryman, moves people to the other side. Well, apparently, the female personification of the river from this combination, this infernal combination, arrives Persephone. So you're going to see that in Pseudo Apollodorus. We'll mention that, saying Styx bore him Zeus Persephone in his Bibliotheca. So hey, lots of other stories. And but I guess I did promise you a little bit. I'll give you a glimpse, a little bit of the Poseidon. So I'll give you so we're going to have like a little Poseidon adventure. So here it is. So basically, and actually this is the time for everybody moving their cars, in a place known as Arcadia, not to be confused of another city by that name. In the city of Arcadia, she was worshipped under the name Despona. She's worshipped under the name Despona. Despoena. Despona. And as the daughter of Poseidon, Hippias, the horse, right? And Demeter, according to the story, as told by Pausanias, the 2nd century CE, who writes a geography, descriptions of Greece. He talks about Despoina and goes in, but he doesn't want to tell too much in the way of information. He says as follows. He says, Despoina, the Arcadians worship more than any other god, declaring that she is the daughter of Poseidon and Demeter. Despoina, which means the mistress, is her surname among the many, just as they surname Demeter's daughter by Zeus as Kor, the maiden. Okay, but whereas the real name of Kor, the maid, is Persephone, excuse me, as Homer and Pamphilos before him say in their poems. The real name, this is interesting, the real name of Despoina, I am afraid to write to the uninitiated. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So if you're not initiated, I'm sorry. So what's going on here? What's going on here is that the Arcadians, they've come up with another name for Persephone, right? Another name, that's a secret name, that they're not going to release. So you can see already that there is something behind the name. Are you following me? That there seems to be this cover-up, right? And we'll go into that a little bit more. Homer describes her as, of course, the wife of Hades. So this kind of goes back a ways. And the majestic queen of the shades, who exercises her power and carries into effect the curses of men upon the souls of the dead. So, so if you make a curse She's the one that makes sure it just goes all the way down into the underworld and it comes about. So Homer's depiction is not that positive, as you can see, right? She is also referred to as Juno Inferna, which of course sounds a lot like in connection to the Hera, Juno, the Latin word. Also Stygia. He mentions that her groves are said to be in the western extremity of the earth, on the very frontiers of the lower world. And here in this place is the house of Persephone. What I think is interesting about that is that she has her own place, a special grove, and yet doesn't she live with Hades? You caught that, didn't you? So it looks like, you can see this already, that she's given a lot of freedom. So she's allowed to go to the very edge of the underworld during her time with Hades, and she chooses a place right on the edge, right on the edge between this world and the underworld. Isn't that great? And she has her grove there. Maybe the best of both worlds. Maybe it's the period of time that's very mystical according to the ancients. It's kind of like that fuzzy realm of twilight. Is that making sense? Yeah. So, or maybe the time right before that sun begins to shine. Are you guys having fun yet? Right? You feel like you're okay. So, where does she come from? Well, she is connected to the traditional vegetative gods of Anatolia, of Syria, of Mesopotamia. There's lots of connections there. And early versions of her most likely follow the typical cycle of the seasons, where Persephone gives birth to the god of the new year. You probably heard this before. Who then becomes her lover, impregnates her, and after he dies, she gives birth to him again the next year. So you're going to see these kinds of rhythmic cycle of nature movements in connection to earlier versions of her. And you're going, but the one we heard about is this abduction by Hades. But you can see it's still a version of this kind of myth, because she still goes into the underworld. Are you guys following? So still the spiritual architecture is there. It just Hades kind of Hades is interesting. I want to talk about Hades just for a second. Kind of feel bad for him. He's not an evil god. He made this deal with casting lots over the earth with Zeus, Poseidon, and he got the bad end of the deal. You know that, right? I mean, they're casting lots. Notice Zeus gets, hey, I get the sky. Poseidon's all, I get the sea and earth. And Hades like, look, I got the underworld. So nobody wants that. So he got the short end of the straw. So they always say that he's always grumpy. Wouldn't you be grumpy if you were stuck down there all the time because of casting lots? So, and he gets pretty lonely. I get that too, right? But he's also a newcomer. Hades really doesn't exist earlier on during the time of the Minoans, and barely even during the time of the Mycenaeans. He's not around. Who's the big god? It's a dual team. It's Poseidon and Zeus, right? and in many cases it's just Poseidon, because the Minoans didn't even have Zeus. They had Poseidon as the god. And then of course as Indo-Europeans, the Mycenaeans, they bring in Zeus. And then Poseidon so he kind of messes up. Poseidon messes up. Hey, maybe it's the fall of the Minoan civilization. I don't know, but he messes up. There's images of him on certain seals where it looks like all these waves are going everywhere. Because remember, Poseidon's supposed to be the god of the earth. That's why he's connected to earthquakes. He's the earth shaker. That's why he's connected to horses. Haven't you noticed there's a lot of terrestrial references to him? He is a kind of an earth god, not an underworld god, but he's still an earth god. And then all of a sudden, there's a transfer, and all of a sudden, he becomes just the sea and the above land. And then what happens by default, you got to fill it in, right? What about the underworld? And it's like, oh, and then just stick Hades there. It's like, hi, I'm there. So Hades is kind of a Johnny come lately, and I do that in a whole nother talk. If you're interested, I could do a talk on Hades because that's already done. I've already presented ipso facto details of where Hades comes from. Is that fascinating? And I've done a talk on Poseidon too. So nothing on Zeus. Anyway, moving right along, maybe not. So what's going to happen is that so she basically is Persephone early on is a chthonic deity. She's connected to the underworld. She's the underworld goddess, right? Now, let's go into the Minoans. It looks like, and I believe this is true, that there is evidence that Persephone goes back to the Minoans. This should seem obvious, but we'll go over some of it. There is a plate, a Minoan plate. It's from the Old Palace period at Phaistos. And they show this goddess. They show this goddess, and she is portrayed as growing directly out of the ground. She's growing directly out of the ground and is depicted very flower-like. She looks like a flower that is coming out of the ground. Isn't that fascinating? Right? She has no arms, no legs. There's some dancing girls that surround her. And there's also these like snake coils or tubes around it. Well, it has, of course, chthonic connections. So what's going on here? You know, it's so hard not to be tempted to thinking that this idea of Persephone that comes out of the earth, the shoot, this bloom, right, of life coming out of the soil, it seems to have some kind of connection to the story of where she picked the flower and she goes in the underworld. Does that make sense? There seems, I'm not sure. We can't say for sure, but it just seems to be like, wow, you know, is she her own flower that she picks to bring her into the underworld? Just a thought, thrown it out there. There's also what's called the Dresden vase, where Persephone is shown also growing out of the ground, right? Surrounded by animal-tailed agricultural gods known as the Salon, right? So there seems to be some early precedent there. Another image, possibly Persephone, comes from a gold ring from Isopata, and it shows a goddess that looks pretty much like the one I just described, but this one, she's suspended in the sky. And she has three dancing girls below her with arms raised in worship. So it looks like that she is permeating two different realms, right? She's of the realm of the sky, and then she's the realm of the earth. Well, isn't that true with Persephone, right? She occupies both those areas. So there seems to be some kind of connection. And then, of course, we have to go through the obvious bits and pieces. And that is that earlier on, it looks like she is connected to Demeter and Poseidon. So we'll go over this real quick, if I could do it real quick, right? So I always love doing this part of my talk because if you hear my talks, it's just me doing this thing all over again, and that is this. Okay, so basically you have on the island of Crete, as well as overlooking the city of Troy, there is a great mountain, and that mountain is known as Ida, Mount Ida. It's a holy mountain. It's a sacred mountain, and so it is believed that a goddess occupies this particular mountain. She's the great mother goddess, the great mountain mother goddess. The one around overlooking Troy is connected to Cybele, which is interesting as well. So there you have that. But you look at Mount Ida, and the word Ida, even though it goes back, possibly it is used by the Minoans, it is still used by the Mycenaeans, but it is the Indo-European word. It is. And the word is Ida is, of course, the word da. Maybe we talked about this earlier. You got da. And when it comes to both Minoan and Mycenaeans, they like putting consonants by vowels. They like using these words all kind of chopped up. And so the word da or da or ga means earth. That's what it means. It means earth. So basically it's Mount Earth. It's Mount Ground. There it is, right? So Ida, right? And you can see that Ida, and of course Ida, also connects to the idea of Ga, which is of course the root for the word Gaia. So the word goddess. Got it? So they're all the same, you know. Da, de, ga, ge. All right. Having fun with Mycenaean. Okay, so what happens is that this is Ida, and she is the mother. And of course, the word is mater, right? So you'll see words in Minoan. We'll talk about that in a few seconds, why it's Minoan. There are words that are used earlier on in Minoan that we know through Linear B in Mycenaean. Interesting enough about it is that you have the word, of course, mater is being used too. Mater, of course, means mother. So it's Ida, mater. Da, mater. Da, meter. Demeter. So Demeter, all that means is what? It means, da means what? Earth, right? Right? Mater means mother, right? So earth mother. Got it? So then there's another god that was the god that was worshipped, and the word is Pos. His name is Pos. The word Pos is connected to the idea of spouse, Pos, and he is the spouse of Ida. So he is Pos Ida. Hence he is Poseidon. Right? So he is the spouse of the earth. Isn't that beautiful? Right? See how that works? And so they together conceive a child. And who's that child's name? Well, I'm not going to give it to you yet. I'll give it away too much because I don't want to throw you off. But there is you mean there is another name that you haven't mentioned yet? No, they have a child, which of course we'll understand as Kor, that we'll understand as Persephone, but it's another name. So I'll keep you listening. So here we keep going. Okay, so that Poseidon is then the father here. Early on Minoans and into the Mycenaeans, we have evidence for that Poseidon is indeed the father of Persephone. Isn't that great? And then they change their mind. They do a switcheroo, and it's going to be Zeus that gets the credit. So, we'll talk about that too. Okay, so we take a look at this, and we go, all right, we're back to the earlier legends and stories. We take a look, and sorry, let's go to try to figure out here. Okay, so we go to the linear A, and we see another name that's connected to Demeter. That is the daughter, and the name is, I'm going to give you in the Minoan that goes into the Mycenaean. How's that? And you have to guess what that name is. The name is Atano. Atano, that's the name. They had a child named Atano. Can you guys guess what god that is? Atano. Athena. You're like, no. Yes. Is that interesting? It's like, wow, how do we do that? Yeah, ideas will divert later on when it comes to the name. Does that make sense? You mean the secret name is Athena? Well, that's another goddess. I know, but that's the fun part about studying early mythology is that it gets all mixed up. especially during the Minoan and Mycenaean period. Are you guys having fun yet? Yeah, so Athena, and just think of Athena, but everything that Persephone does, Athena does also. There's an internal logic to it, but not yet. It is absolutely a Minoan word. Because linear A, everything's. Yes. So we take a look. We're going through well, what's interesting, I want to bring this up very quickly, just so you have an explanation, because you always see on the web that we haven't translated Minoan or linear A yet. And the answer is that's true, sort of. It's true, yes, maybe. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I'm not going to put my reputation on the line. I won't do that. But what I'll do is I'll tell you this much. What I'll say is that linear A, we have discovered only about 1,400 Minoan inscribed clay tablets. Okay, which is actually quite a bit. We also reveals that there are 78 hieroglyphic signs that formed about 1,025 words. The good news is 15 of these Minoan hieroglyphic signs and 45 of these words can be read because of a Luvian counterpart. What's a Luvian counterpart? So quickly, really quickly, Indo-Europeans, they come on down, and you have the Hittites, and they have their another group called the Luvians that are connected to the Hittites. And these Luvians, as opposed to the Hittites who occupy the central plateau of Anatolia, the Luvians occupy the coastal regions of the west and the south. And I do a lot with the Luvians. I have another talk on Luvian magic. I know all about the Luvians. Most people don't. But the interesting part about that is the Luvians use some of the same symbols because they traded with the Minoans. Got it? And so we know how to read Luvian. When I did, I could actually do a workshop on Hittite. If you want, I could do a workshop on Luvian, because there's a lot. Does that make sense? Because we can figure that out. Well, then there are certain signs and figures that you see in Minoan. Does that make sense? So that's where we're getting these ideas. It doesn't mean we can read it all the way through, but we can read a lot of it. Are you guys okay? You guys breathing? So okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just read some ancient words. So because connecting Atano, right? So you have Atano, the Ouija. So you got Athena, right? The goddess, right? Turusa, which of course means distressed. And you have Durumare, which by the way is the Greek Durame, which means to mourn. So basically you have Athena distressed, lamented. And then we keep going, and you go look at this. It goes Ida A, right? And Ida, right? Una kana si, all right? Ipinama sirote, right? So appeared in a dream. The strong name tore her hair. It's not a great translation, but hey, it's at least you're hearing something, right? So strong name tore her name. So maybe the one with the strong name tore her hair. Now I think that's interesting though, because it's referring to her strong name. We're back to Atene, Athena, and her name is what? It's a strong name. We're back to, wow, the name is so important. Have you guys noticed that? Right? And she tore her hair. So it seems like she's pretty upset. We don't know why. There's another possibility though. You could also think of, sirute can mean to tear. It could also mean to mock. So it's a possibility. Are you guys okay? But anyway, we're not able to read any of that. So I won't mention anything about it being a third singular past medial passive. Not a single word about that. We move on. So we also have other evidence that the name Atene is, so you see in this sentence, by the way, you have Atene connected directly with Demeter. You see that? In an inscription. Inscription Ko Zao, if you're wondering. But also Demeter and Persephone are connected to axes, these axe symbols. And so how do we know? Because we find inscriptions that have their names on it. That's how we know. So there we go. Okay, so anyway, the double axe. Yep, the battle axe. So we see that. In other cases, it looks like that she's understood as a lady. So unperceived, you lamented without gifts, the lady established. This is on a magic cup. We can't read the rest, but after a while, by the way, the double axe sometimes denotes the letter A. So it's the first letter of the Minoan alphabet, which again we don't know about. Okay, moving right along. Stopping peddling forbidden knowledge and keep on going. So what happens now, Atenea, this idea will now go into Mycenaean, because remember, that's how we, so basically you got double confirmation. You got the Luvian telling us that's what the word means, and then you have the linear B Mycenaean telling us what that means. Does that make sense? You got two threads coming together. Chances are that's what it means. Are you guys okay with that? Double confirmation? Okay, so we take a look at this, and we realize that this Atenea is connected in many cases in the context of a sun too. So she seems to have a sky aspect, but she also seems to have a chthonic aspect, and she also seems to go under lots of stress. She read, poor thing, right? But that's still not a lot, you know. So we go from there, and we do have other inscriptions. I do want to mention that we get to, make sure we're there. Yeah, we get to the Mycenaean period. We see, of course, Demeter, right, is being worshipped. But we also see that Persephone is also being referred to. And she's understood as, in many cases, the mistress, the maiden or the mistress. In some cases, she's the Apotonea of the grain, the mistress of the grain. Also, Despoina. There's that word again, Despoina. So it's Despoina of the grain. She's also known simply as the lady. So we get to the Mycenaean period of time. She is the lady. She is the maiden, right? And Despoina, again, is important. Despoina will be the name, one of her names that's being used within the context of the Eleusinian Mysteries. So this Despoina name will become part of the mysteries of mystery cults of ancient Greece. So that is fascinating. And we also find that the Apotonea of the grain, the mistress of the grain, is sometimes Demeter. So we're having a problem here. Sometimes it's Demeter, and sometimes it's Persephone. And meanwhile, Poseidon's like, hey, what's going on here? You know, I'm the earth shaker. What's going on? Is there an answer to this problem? Yeah, there is. So there's one inscription that talks about, it's a list of sacrificial goods from Pylos. It reveals its destination was the place of the, quote, two queens and Poseidon. You gotta love it, right? It's like, wait, they're both right. Are you seeing the problem, right? Two queens and Poseidon. So it's like, well, are they daughter and mother yet? And who's the daughter and who's the mother? And the answer is, of course, yes. So things get a little bit confusing, yet that's because there's different traditions that are moving in. Are you following? And they still haven't made their mind up yet. Is Persephone, is she connected with the sky, or is she the underworld? Is she the one main mistress of the grain, or is that mom, or is it both together? And this is the reality, because the Mycenaeans, they're a collection of different cultures, and we look through linear B, we realize there are different interpretations. What we can read of even how the gods are perceived. In some cases, Poseidon is like, hey, he's really important. In other cases, it's more Zeus. Just depends on locality. Any questions so far? Is this interesting? All right. I told you it's a little dense. There's a lot of information here. So where do we go from here? Where we go from here is that we have to now move on to the central myth. So I'm doing some myth making. So here we go. So this is the pomegranate story, and I'm going to go through this and dissect it, if that's okay. All right. So the central myth, of course, is the fact that she gets carried off by Hades. Oh boy, you're in for some fun here. Okay, so beautiful Persephone, also known as Core, maiden, right? She was in one of her favorite places. She's collecting flowers on the slopes of Mount Etna, which probably is not a great idea because it's a volcano. It's wanting to erupt even now, right? But she's collecting. But remember, there is connections, and a lot of scholars say it is interesting because volcanoes are oftentimes looked at as openings to the underworld. I'll just kind of throw that one in. Even though she goes to the underworld a different way, still there's an idea that this is an opening. Okay, so, and she sees a beautiful narcissus of all flowers, by the way. You know, the pick, it's a narcissus, right? It caught her eye, and by the way, she's hanging out with the girls, hanging out with Aphrodite and a few of the others, right? Athena, you know, that was later her namesake, right? And she reached out to pluck it. But when she pulled the flower, the entire earth started to unravel beneath her feet. And Artemis, Aphrodite, Athena did notice this. Demeter, of course, heard about it. She panicked, according to the Homeric hymn too. She rent the covering upon her divine hair with her dear hands. Her dark cloak she cast down from both her shoulders. Queen Dale wandered over the earth with flaming torches in her hands. So she's pretty upset. And where does she go? Well, the backstory is Hades supposedly had seen Persephone and fell in love with her. But Zeus knew that Demeter would not simply give over her daughter over to Poseidon and to live with, you know, so Hades. Well, that was an interesting slip. I like that. Okay, live up with Hades, and so he recommended Hades that he would steal her away. Okay, so that's basically kind of the story there. By the way, it is a story. There's another alternative version of it. I'll just leak it real quick. Zeus already deflowered Persephone. Okay, moving right along. Did you guys catch that? Okay. I'll give you the source later. Are you guys interested? I know. You're going, oh, wow, this is trauma of the worst kind, right? Yeah, it's like, then to give it can you imagine the brother? Thanks. It's like, really? Okay, so moving on. Demeter found out that her daughter had disappeared, searched all over for her possible whereabouts. According to the sources, hymn 6, she says, basically, here it is. Okay, yeah, here. She refused to drink any nectar and eat any ambrosia or even bathe, right? So, I mean, she's really in a terrible situation. But you know, after, in fact, 3 times did you cross Achilleos with his silver eddies, and as often did you pass over each of the ever-flowing rivers, and 3 times did you sit yourself on the ground besides the fountain Kilikos, which is the well of Eleusis, parched without drinking, and did not eat nor wash. But after 9 days of doing this, Hecate, hey, you know, of the underworld, she appears to Demeter, telling her that that she knew that something had happened to her. Well, thank you, Hecate. I can't find my daughter. You know, but Hecate says, no. I heard her cries, but I didn't see where she went. Well, who would know where she went? Hey, Helios, the sun god, right? He sees all. He sees everything. Nothing passes his eye. He knows. So they asked Helios, and Helios told Demeter that Zeus promised Persephone to Hades hand in marriage without even consulting her. And Helios threw in his extra little bit. He said, and I think it's a good match. Really? Wait, what? Don't put your 2 cents worth in, okay? So Demeter was now full of sorrow. She's pretty angry with her husband, as you would expect, you know. She's separate from her from her daughter, and she becomes kind of absent-minded. She's just not thinking straight. So one of the stories goes is that there was a certain king, and that's his name is King Tantalus. You guys heard of King Tantalus? Yeah. And the gods liked this guy. He was like really popular. Just kind of a maneuver, I could picture him wearing like a really colorful jacket. He knows how to work people, and he knew how to work the gods to the point where he was invited up into Mount Olympus to eat with them, right? And he took their ambrosia, and he had like this. He would actually give the ambrosia to his friends and people he knew on Earth. That's kind of really shady, right? It's like, hey, you want some ambrosia? I have a whole bunch. I got it from the banquet I was just at for the gods. The gods. So he invited the gods to come down and have a meal with him, including, of course, a poor, mourning, very upset Demeter. So they're all sitting there, and what he did is that he wanted to fool the gods. He took his son Pelops and he cut him into little pieces, and he served the gods his son. And Zeus is smart. Zeus right away goes, oh wait, no, this is bad. We're not going to eat. By that point, unfortunately, Demeter, she had already ate Pelops' shoulder. Just like, oh, I didn't know. Just so upset. She couldn't tell. As a result, obviously, Tantalus got himself in trouble, right? So, forever, for all eternity, he's going to be stuck wading in water with this nice delectable fruit above him, right? And so if he tries to reach for the fruit goes up. If he wants to get something to drink, the water goes down. Life is pretty messed up, but that's what you do. That's what happens to you if you serve your own son to the gods. You can see that. Meanwhile, Pelops is reconstructed again, but they couldn't find his shoulder because Demeter ate it. So he was given like a replacement shoulder. Sometimes it's an ivory shoulder. So yeah. So when I say that she's upset, she is upset. Can't find her daughter. Well, now it's starting to affect her work. So now everything starts to die. The fields are starting to die. Everything. The earth is going into a fall. It's going into a winter. This is really bad, right? The earth's soil becomes very barren. She's not eating at all, and she disguises herself as an old Cretan woman, looking for her daughter. And finally, what happens is that she's again not bathing, and she sits beside a well and she starts to cry. The well, of course, is located at Eleusis, and the daughters of the chieftain Celsus, they come out of the house and they try to comfort her. Demeter spins a very pathetic yarn about what happened to her, that she originated, Demeter. She originated from the island of Crete, which is, of course, the center of the Minoans. She's brought to Crete. She's brought to this land by pirates. Well, that makes sense. The pirates would be the Mycenaeans, bringing their ideas there. So that works. And, And so she tells this interesting story. She calls herself Dozo. And that's important because Dozo means I will give which of course is close to the word elethu or eletho, which means to bring. And as we know, Aletheia, the bringer, is a Minoan goddess. So there is a connection there. And I know it real quick there. Did you guys get it? So her name is connected to a Minoan goddess. So Demeter, and that connection goes a little bit further. Well, what happens now is that they invite her in. The story is that the goddess walked to the threshold and her head reached the roof, and she filled the doorway with her heavenly radiance. But they still can't figure out that she's a goddess. Anyway, this huge lady who could barely fit into the house, they ask her, hey, why don't you go ahead and can you become a nurse for my infant son, says the wife of Celsus, right? So, and she says, sure, she'll do that. And then we have a repeat of a story, which we'll go into, where she takes the infant son and she burns a little bit of the son, when the mom's not looking, in order to give him immortality. And the mom discovers, oh no, you're trying to kill my son. Oh no. And then she reveals herself, I am Demeter. And okay, I'm sorry. Well, that site becomes a site for the Eleusinian Mysteries. Why that's important is that's a main worship site for not just Demeter, but for Persephone too. They're both worshipped there. And that's how the site is founded. And that's why I had to tell you the whole story of where it came from. Okay, so there you have it. Well, still, Demeter, of course, at this point, she orders a temple built and the Eleusinian Mysteries created. But her mood did not improve. She's upset. And finally, Zeus goes, all right, this is not going to work out. The earth is dying. We need you to do your job. You're refusing to do your job because you're grieving. So to placate his sister wife, he sends down Hermes down to Hades to fetch Persephone in order to reunite her with her mother. Looks like a grand reunion. Hades decides to prepare a feast. Now, Persephone supposedly was having a fast all this time. She wasn't eating at all. But, she's happy, so I'm going to break my fast. And so she took one pomegranate seed. That's all she took. Guess what? It's enough because it's from the earth. And that made her have to stay half the year in the earth because she partook of the yield of the underworld. Although I do have to tell you, there's another story. The other story is that she didn't take one. She took 6 pomegranate seeds. I know. She was more hungry than we thought. Well, you can understand that, right? So you got to love these different versions of the story, right? She realized her mistake, but now she's stuck there, right? Which is, of course, half the year one way, half the year the other way. And so what will happen now is you're going to have, in connection to the story, you're going to have the Eleusinian Mysteries, right? Eleusinian Mysteries. Of course, we'll talk about them briefly because these are the mysteries connected to not just Demeter, but they are the mysteries of Persephone. They both go together. So we got to tell you the story, right? So what happens basically is you have the first part goes as follows. The Eleusinian Mysteries, of course, are supposed to guarantee immortality. They occur in Athens. And so they began with the sacred herald saying, Hekos, Hekos, Este, Babylon, right? All evil thoughts and profane be still, far hence from our choirs depart. Who knows not well what the mystics tell, or is not holy and pure of heart? I charge them once. I charge them twice. I charge them thrice, that they draw not nigh to the sacred dance of the mystic choir. All right. So now the announcement's made, and because of this, everybody has to stay away because these are the mysteries. So the initiates are allowed, but everybody else stays away. Even Nero one time when he's visiting is going, even I am not going to mess with this, So there we go. And then what happens is that this will be, of course, the 14th of September, Bodrion, right? And at this point, holy objects. You guys noticed the month, right? Yeah, it's this month. So that's what. Yeah, okay. The holy objects were brought to the city in round baskets called kistai, right? The most important part of the Athenian celebrations was on the 16th, following the cry, "To the sea, O Mistai," and then each Mistais, right, took a bath in the sea together with a piglet. The piglet was alive, right? And so what happened is it was sacrificed immediately after the bath in the sea. And the belief is that your whatever sin or evil will be transferred over to the pig and then gotten rid of as a result of that. So the blood was of a pig was believed to be capable of purifying whatever was impure in humans. That was just simply their belief. But taking a look at this, it does look like a Christian baptism, doesn't it? Right? But also, of course, the idea is that this piglet also represents the inundation of going into the underworld and the death that it represents. So many people say that the pig sacrifice was intended for Persephone and not Demeter. So this pig sacrifice is connected to the underworld and to Persephone specifically. Again, that's why I'm going through this, the chthonic goddess. The next 2 days, the 17th and 18th, were occupied with preparations for the journey ahead, including instructions. They told the sacred story of Demeter and Persephone, which you already heard, right? So there you have that. And after that, a torch was to pass before their faces, as well as a winnowing fan. Then, of course, from there on out, what happens, and of course, the idea is the separation of the wheat from the chaff, which seems like to be also a metaphor for the separation of the body from the spirit. Isn't this interesting, right? So you have these interesting bits and pieces. Then there's a great procession that started on the 19th with the crowd of initiates saying, "Iacchus, O Iacchi," right? Now, Iacchus is another name for Dionysus. And yes, Dionysus, of course, and who is also believed, according to this tradition, here we go, to be the son of, guess who in this tradition? Zeus and Demeter in this tradition. This particular Dionysus, wait a second, Dionysus, see, Zeus, Demeter, Persephone, Zeus, Demeter, Dionysus. Well, that would make Dionysus what? Huh? Yeah, but also a brother. Brother Dionysus. No wonder there's a connection. You guys ever think about that? Oh, yeah. So no wonder he's a part of it and he's active in it because, hey, that's the brother. Of course he's going to be part of these mysteries, right? And so what happens is Iacchus, what will happen is that he is the one that leads the band in the mystical sense out of Athens into this liminal space in between, on the way, on a great procession, 14 miles to Eleusis, to the worship, of course, of Demeter and Persephone. Got it? So you have this going on, going through this. I actually have even more words here, too. People are walking around the journey crowned with myrtle, also carrying myrtle branches tied with wool. By the way, a lot of people don't know what the wool means. I'm going to tell you what the wool means. I've done some studies on this particular idea. Did you know wool was connected to the idea of rainwater? And so, for example, in Anatolia, around the city of Ephesus, we know that there was a custom where they would go to the olive trees and they put wool on the branches, and they believed through the sympathetic magic that wool on the branches would bring rain, water, and fertility. And then they break off the branches and they would put these branches above the lintel of their homes, bringing the fertility magic to the home. Well, in this case now, they're bringing, and you'll see later on, this idea of rain. Wait a second, Dr. Rietveld, didn't you say that Persephone is connected to what element again? Water. Is this making sense? So she is connected to this idea. Oh, are we having fun yet? Okay, so Iacchus, the procession headed past an ancient statue of Iacchus, right? Head crowned with a wreath of myrtle as well. They move along towards the foothills. They cross the holy Riti River, and then of course they continue on there. And of course, the Riti River is said to be sacred to both Persephone and Demeter. Then, in fact, only the priests alone are allowed to catch fish and eat the fish from this particular holy river. This Riti is the bounty between the area of Athens and the area of the Eleusinians. So there we go. At this point, this is interesting, is at this point there was some grotesque buffoonery going on. What I mean by grotesque buffoonery is that you have between these two bridges, the one bridge and the other bridge, you have these people going around and they're mocking and making obscene gestures to the Mysti. They're trying to throw them off, right? Then during the same period of time, oh boy, after crossing the first bridge, they drank from the kekion, which is they drink from the vessel. This vessel, of course, was probably filled with something interesting. Some people think maybe there's ergot or something that's in there because maybe that adds to the buffoonery. Can you imagine? You drank something that has some kind of strange substance, and you see this buffoonery going, okay, this is a little too much. You're entering into another world. You're entering into liminal space. And then from there, you cross the second river. You're also, of course, asked to give the password. And what's the password? I'm going to give you the password. You guys ready now? So if you are going on the Lucius and you want to worship Demeter and Persephone, and you're kind of stuck there, and they're going to say, "What's the password?" You have to say, "I have fasted." Right? Drunk from the kick-on, taken things out of the big basket, and after performing a rite, put them in the little basket. Once I put them back in the big basket. There it is. Some secret mysteries that we don't know about. Maybe not. Okay, so what happened after that is that then there are some people who come along. I'm telling you things that people don't know. You know that, right? They are of a special family chosen by Demeter. And what happens is they come up to you and they have a woolen ribbon of saffron color, and they tie it around your right hand and the left leg of each of you. So there you go. Take notes on that one. Okay, so from there on out, you cross the second bridge, and then what happens there is they have a naked lady. I don't know what's going on here. I'm serious. I'm not joking. A naked lady. One was they talk about her. One is Musaeus, and there's another one too. I have their names here. So they basically are beautiful maidens. Are you guys following this? And some people have said that they represent Persephone. So she in a sense is making her appearance known. Okay, following that, this procession just keeps on going, and they finally arrive with their torches. And they arrive at the place of the mysteries and the sacred house. And of course, from there, you thought you had enough of the story. But guess what? It's time to have another story that's all acted out. So they get to watch another story. Then they rest and they have a fast on the 20th. But then what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to suddenly break their feast. Break their fast, excuse me. Just like Persephone did. Some people think that, well, maybe there's a connection here. And they go to the Hall of Mystery. And of course, you're going to see that here, you're going to have various baskets that are presented. I don't want to keep going on to it, but I just kind of want you to get the idea that In the end, of course, you're going to have the vision of Demeter and possibly Persephone in the very end. And that's how it concludes. So you can see it's a pretty elaborate kind of festivity. All right. Okay, moving right along, or maybe. So then we get into another kind of topic. Here we go. And this is a really dark topic, so I'm going to drink some water. She's connected to the element of water, so I'm going to need this. You're going to have the Orphic Mysteries. Now, the Orphic Mysteries, you got Persephone in here, but it seems like it's almost a different Persephone, and you're going to see that these traditions kind of come together. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you a plain speech. So here we go. So what happens is, and there's no easy way of talking about this, but this takes place, in some cases, this takes place before Poseidon has her as his wife. And basically what happens is that Zeus, one version of the story has Zeus goes unto Demeter and has a relationship with Demeter, and she bears Persephone. And then Zeus goes unto Persephone. Got it? And gives birth to Dionysus. You guys follow that? So the idea is that Dionysus Zagreus is mostly Zeus stuff. Got it? You guys follow this? You want me to say this again or not? So once is enough. And so as a result, who's going to be angry about this? Hera is going to be angry about this. Don't you think she would be angry about this? I'd be angry about this. So here you have baby Dionysus, who's mostly Zeus stuff, right? Which is connected in the Orphic Mysteries and the Eleusinian Orphic Mysteries, connected to the idea that he is mostly spirit. Okay. And so what happens is that Hera gets a hold of the giants. These giants, they're mostly this material aspect, spirit material from the underworld. And they lure baby Dionysus from the throne room with toys. Actually have toys in the story. Little baby Dionysus goes over to the giants. The giants capture him. They cut him into little pieces and they eat him. I know. I'm telling you, it's a terrible story. It's not something you tell anybody. So so they digest him. Well, Zeus is pretty upset by this because now the spirit of Dionysus, which is pure and wonderful, is now consumed by these material giants. It's they're in their bellies. So what Zeus does is he takes his old lightning and he destroys the giants, but the giants are now left as ash. And you can't tell the difference between the giant material ash and the spiritual ash of Dionysus. So what he does is puts them all together and he makes humanity. And so humanity is a mixture between the evil material of the giants, the flesh, and the spirit of Dionysus, right? And so the idea is that this is actually even woven within the Eleusinian Mysteries, but Plato refers to this quite a bit. You guys are familiar with Plato? He talks about, he seems to be, he goes too much into this. Anyway, the point of the matter is that we have a material nature that is dark, that we need to reject, and we need to focus upon, and it's basically the sepulcher of our soul. But our soul is Dionysian. And if we focus on our Dionysian spirit, our Dionysian soul, we will be free. Got it? So that's the darker realm. Okay, so you're going, okay, so come on, what can you give me more about Persephone here? Well, yeah, so Persephone's in there somewhere. Well, there is another story that's similar to it, and it's mentioned by Nonus in his Dionysica. You can tell by the names about Dionysus, from the 5th century CE. And he talks about another story, and it's a story you're not going to like either. It's kind of in between the other two stories. So what happened is that, how do I say this? I actually have the whole thing in front of me. I actually have it here. So just not sure if I want to read it. Okay, so I'll just say this. So I'll read part of it because I have to, because you want to know what this is about. And Father Zeus was much bewitched by Persephone. When Zeus spied the virgin beauty of her shape, his eyes ran ahead of him to guide all the Erotes, and could not have enough of Persephone. In his heart, storms of unsleeping passion raged without ceasing, and gradually a greater furnace of the Paphian or Aphroditean was kindled from a small spark. The gaze of love-maddened Zeus was enslaved by the lovely breast of the goddess. Once she was amusing herself with a resplendent bronze plate, which reflects her face like a judge of beauty, and she confirmed the image of her shape by this free, voiceless herald, testing the unreal form in the shadow of the mirror and smiling at the mimic likeness. Thus Persephone gazed in the self-graved portrait of her face and beheld the self-impressed aspect of a false Persephone. Once in the scorching steam of thirsty heat, the girl would cease the loomed, toiling labors of her shuttle at midday to shun the tread of the parching season. Very well written, right? And wipe the running sweat from her face. She loosened the modest bodice which held her breast so tight, and moistened her skin with a refreshing bath, floating in the cool running stream, and left behind her threads fixed on the loom of Pallas Athena. But she could not escape, guess who's watching? The all-seeing eyes of Zeus. He gazed at her whole body, uncovered in her bath. He was so mighty, the ruler of the universe, the charioteer of heaven, bowed his neck to desire for all the greatness. No thunderbolts, no lightnings help him against Aphrodite in his arms. He left the house, Hera, and he refused to sleep. He said he refused the bed, Dion, which is Hera. He threw away the love of Dio. He fled from Themis. He deserted Leto. No charm was left for him, but only union with Persephone. You guys get it? All right. You guys never heard the story before, have you? Yeah, well, you're hearing it now. So, so Demeter realizes she has a problem, right? Not to get Demeter mixed up with Hera, right? But you got Demeter, she's got a problem. And Hera refers to, hey, I think my hubby, who's, kind of, it gets real complicated. Never mind. There's a problem here. Well, Demeter comes up with a solution. Oh, God. So she goes to the house of Astraeus, the god of prophecy, and she laid her hand on his knee and kindly asked the ancient man, what should she do? And so the answer is that she is Persephone is brought to a cave that is to be guarded by all these dragons, and these dragons are going to keep away Zeus. Right? You guys got it? This is not going to go good, right? Okay. So anyway, so guess who decides to make himself into a dragon? That's right. That's right. Yeah, Zeus. He arrives. He's a dragon, and he mixes with the other dragons. Does he have another? So no, but well, no. What happens? No. This is what he does. And as a dragon, he, because he gets, every time, he always makes his mark. He does impregnate her with Dionysus.
Oh, so Zacharias is dragon boy, basically.
Yes. You guys like that? His name is Nonis. By the way, that's this ancient source. You guys can look it up. Is this interesting? You guys learning things? So you can see where those who are into the Orphic mysteries, but some of these other stories, they're going, well, how do we get her down into the underworld? Oh, well, she's already, but she's already been with Zeus, and so she's being kind of put away into the underworld. Are you guys following this? I'm sorry, but I got to tell you the whole story. Are you guys learning things? Yeah, maybe too much. It's gonna be dangerous. Then, of course, you have the story of Orpheus. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the story, not the whole thing, but I do think um, it's a good story because it does show a little bit more about Persephone. So, what happens is Orpheus, Eurydice, which is of course his new bride, basically a serpent struck her heel and she dies. He's pretty upset by this, and so what he does is he descends into across the river Styx. He's still alive, and he goes through the thronging raves and the grave-spent ghosts, and he came to pale Persephone and him, Dominus Umbatum, right, the Lord of the Shades, Hades, who rules the unlovely realm. And he tells the story, but I want to focus on something that you may not notice. He's all, my heart has sought strength to endure the attempt I'll not deny, but love has won a God whose fame is fair in the world above. But here I doubt, though here too I surmise, if that ancient tale of ravishment is true, you too were joined in love. Wait, what? Wait, what? Joined in love? You go, what's going on here? In fact, he says, the favor that I ask is but you to enjoy her love. And if fate will not reprieve her, my resolve is clear, not in return may to death give you cheer. So he's telling his story, but he's referring to the fact that, these two people love each other, Persephone and Hades. And you can identify with, this kind of, it's like, wait a second, they love each other? Hey, this is something they're not telling you. They're always depicting her going like this. In fact, there are other legends and stories that show that mom drove her crazy. She didn't want to be with mom all the time. The only way out was, Hades, but Hades is kind of cool. I mean, and look, I got a nice house at the edge of morning, right? In the grove. So, she has kind of the best of both worlds. At least it looks like that Hades does have affection for Persephone, right? It does look that way. And you can see this in this particular story. In fact, he told a story, and their eyes were the tears were coming to their eyes. So he's bringing them, especially Persephone, to tears. So he's making them cry. Well, it doesn't look like that Persephone is too hardened. Does that make sense? Or Hades. And what do? What happens is that they say, okay, you're bringing back your wife. Woohoo! Yeah, your bride. Just whatever you do, as you're walking up there, don't look back. Of course, you know what happens. Yeah, he's almost there. He's not sure if she's behind him, and he he looks back, and she whisked away, and that's it. Now, the rest of the story, not less Persephone oriented, but I just want to give you that little insight from that story. Well, of course, what's going to happen is you're going to have the Orphic Mysteries, because this is Orpheus after all, right? The Orphic Mysteries, which I'll talk more about, guess what, in 2 weeks. So I go into detail about this in 2 weeks. So you kind of have to hold it on to that one. But what happens is they found a whole bunch of gold tablets in southern Italy and Sicily. And these gold tablets, it sounds like another belief system, right? But really, in people's tombs. And they tell you when you die where to go. And it shows, and again, I'll give you more details later, but it tells you how you're supposed to avoid the waters of Lethe and go to the waters of memory instead. But it mentions all the way through these works, of course, the fact that Persephone and Hades are, in a sense, a positive influence. They're good judges, and they both judge together. So it's not just Hades that does the judging in the underworld. I think that's interesting in and of itself, and a point that's oftentimes missed, that they're both doing the judging. So, and you can see that appeal in many ancient sources. I know I need to wrap up, but I want to just kind of go through some other factors. I know I've kind of threw in various things. I want to mention another story. Persephone also sometimes given the position of Prometheus. And she is the one, according to pseudo-hygienists, she is the one who helps create humanity. You guys interested in this one? All right, okay. So here it goes. So when Kor was crossed, I'm reading the primary source right now. When Kor was crossing a certain river, she saw some clay mud. She took it up thoughtfully and began to fashion man. While she was pondering on what she had done, Jove, Zeus, came up. Kor asked him to give the image life, and Zeus readily granted this. But when Kor wanted to give it her name, we're back to the name again, her name, Zeus forbade it and said that his name should be given it. But while they were disputing about the name, Tellus, or Gaia, the earth, arose and said that it should have her name. It's a name game. It's a blame game. Okay. So since she had given her own body, right? So I mean, I can see Demeter did give her own body because it's the clay of the earth that Persephone fashioned it out of, right? So they went to Kronos. I guess Kronos is still around at this time. He hasn't, he hasn't reached his demise yet. He's the judge, and he seems to have decided for them. Jove, since you gave him life, and the text is missing now. Jove, since you gave him life, text missing. Most people believe it was he was given control over the fate of men. But don't worry, the text continues. You just got a hole in the text. Let her, Persephone, receive his body after death. So basically, with humanity, Zeus is the one who has control of our fate. But when it comes to our body after death, Persephone has it, right? She says, since Kura or Kor fashioned him, and let her, Gaia, possess him as long as he lives. So as we live in life, we are under Gaia. We are under Demeter. And she's the one who gives us life. But when we die, we switch and we go to Persephone, and it is Zeus who decides the fate. Isn't that interesting? So there you have that. There are many other stories as well, but I won't tell them all. I will just refer to a few here. There is, oh no, I don't know if I want to talk about this one. Yeah, too complicated. I'll just say that, oh no, is Adonis. Everybody loves Adonis. How he came about, I told in another talk, and I don't want to go into that again because it's really murky and problematic. But what happens is Adonis basically is he has no parent that will claim him because of his roots. Just put it that way. And so what happens is that who gets to take care of him, right? Well, obviously it's going to be Aphrodite, right? So Aphrodite's taking care of him, but she's not doing her job. So she decides to go ahead and go become a part-time pseudo mom. And who's going to be the other mom? Persephone. Yeah, that's right. So Persephone is going to be watching Adonis. And here's the problem. They both fall in love with Adonis. And they start competing with one another. And so they start to fight. And finally, Zeus intercedes and he decides that every year, Adonis would spend 4 months with Persephone, the next 4 months with Aphrodite, and the last 4 months, he would be left alone. That way, everybody's happy. You get it? So there you have it. Okay. He dies anyway. He doesn't last very long. So there's a bull. He's killed by a bull, and some people think it's really Ares. Because, Ares is jealous of Aphrodite. Oh, we'll stop. So anyway, you get the idea. There's also Persephone really liked Hercules. Woo, yeah. So even though Hades is kind of like, hey, I love you. Persephone likes Hercules quite a bit, and there's a few stories there too. He came to the Underworld on his quest to fetch Cerberus, the hounds of Hades, and Persephone received him like a brother and allowed him to carry off the dog as well as free Theseus from his bonds. So that's not too bad, but you know, he's a charmer. Persephone also favored Sisyphus quite a bit. So that's another one. And he also helped Alcestis, you know, kind of. But you know what? I got to tell you, she wasn't always that friendly. I have to tell you this story. You guys ever heard of Minth? Okay, so okay, Minth. What happened is this. According to the story, how this goes is that before the affections of Persephone, Hades had Myth. That's right. Myth was his special lady, the concubine of Hades. And what happens is that Persephone arrives in the underworld, sees this competition, and according to the story, is so upset that she tramples her underfoot, quote, and transforms her into a garden mint, which is a plant, the mint plant. Well, that's one version of the story. That's Strabo's version. But I like Oppian's version even better. In Oppian's version, what happens is that it's not Persephone who kills and transforms Minth. It's mom. But there's a story behind this. It goes as follows. According to this one, Mint, men say, was once a maid beneath the earth, a nymph of Cocytus, and she lay in the bed of Adonis, Hades. But when he raped the maid Persephone from the Aeaean hill, which is Mount Etna, right? Then she complained loudly with overweening words and raved foolishly for jealousy. And Demeter, in anger, trampled upon her with her feet and destroyed her. For she had said that she was nobler of form and more excellent in beauty than dark-eyed Persephone. And she boasted that Adonis would return to her and banish the others from his halls. Such infatuation leapt upon her tongue, and from the earth sprayed the weak herb that bears her name, unquote. So there you go. What do you guys think? So watch out for Persephone and mom, who defends the dignity of her daughter. Actually, I kind of think the story is rather cool because, you know, she's angry because she's wanting to defend her daughter. Well, what I think is also interesting is it kind of shows her support of the marriage. You guys following that? You caught that between Hades and Persephone. You seen that, right? Otherwise, sure, go ahead and leave, right? But she didn't take that opportunity. So we learn a lot from these ancient sources. Is this good? You guys enjoying this? I guess I have to close it down. I just will say that there's even more stories, and I would just say that there is even a certain Persephone who went on a mission to the underworld because he wanted to take Persephone as his wife and take her away. Yeah, he ended poorly. So there you have insights into Persephone, a little bit about her character and who she is, about her ancient roots, and how she was perceived in general in the ancient world. I hope you enjoyed this talk. Thank you, and have a great night. Yes. Yeah. Well, no, he was an idiot. He's classic. Yeah. Yeah. No, there's other stories besides that. Yeah. Okay, so the double battle axe, is it connected to Athena or is it connected to Persephone? And when it comes to the original name, it's connected to Athena, who is Persephone. Remember I said also the double axe connects to the letter A? Well, guess what? Atana starts with an A. Oh, I got to get a picture of everybody before everybody disappears. Ah. Oh, okay. If I can do this, how am I going to do this here? Is it this way? I'll do this way. 1, 2, and that way, and I'll do this. Okay. Yes. So does that help? So Atana is starts with A. So you can see the associations natural, right? So it's an early name, and of course, I do another talk on Athena, as you know. So I go through all the roots of how the idea of Athena will now branch off and separate from Persephone. But what do we do with that? Of course, it's like, well, I guess she's going to have to be more tied to Zeus, and then of course coming out of the head. Does that make sense? So you can see how these ideas come together, because she kind of loses the roots of Demeter, and becomes kind of connected just to Zeus alone. So yeah. Yeah. So basically, what you're trying to and you're saying it well. So basically, if you have, of course, Zeus going unto, I'm using like King James English. It sounds better. Going unto. It's your King James. I don't like him though. King James, not my favorite. But anyway, going unto Demeter, and then she bears a daughter, and then he goes unto Persephone, and then he bears, of course, she bears Dionysus, right? Right, you got that right. So in this case, of course, that means is that rather than Dionysus being the sister, maybe that too, the brother of Persephone would be the son of Persephone, right? So it'd be kind of a switch, and that's a problem, because what happens in the other mysteries is that Dionysus is understood as connected to Zeus and Demeter, and it's Dionysus is their son, and of course the same thing. This way, Zeus and Demeter is Persephone's parentage. So you have a situation where it can be brother sister, or a situation where it could be mother son. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I want to say brother sister is better, but so interesting.
You think? I don't know. I'm agreeing with you. But the whole thing is it's not the Orphic Mysteries is not. I know they're not thinking. Wow, this is gross. This is terrible. What they're thinking is we need to have an offspring that is mostly Zeus stuff, which is the realm of the spirit and realm of purity. And so with Dionysus, because he keeps going unto his own family, does that make sense? It's going to be mostly good spirit, which makes the opposite, because how else could you generate that sense of purity, right, within the line without doing something that doesn't sound very good? So what happens is that then that's contrasted with the giants, who are the realm of the dark nature. They're the titanic flesh. They are the Titans. And so these Titans will then consume the spirit of Dionysus, and they'll have it in their bellies. And then, of course, what will happen is obviously Zeus will destroy them, turn them to ash. But now you have a problem, and because he apparently Zeus can't distinguish between the spirit bits of ash and the titanic bits of ash, and so he puts it together and makes humanity. And humanity then is caught, according to Plato, that we have a titanic nature. We have a titanic evil flesh, flesh that brings us down. Well, evil in the word is kakos. It is a chaotic flesh. It's chaos. And so obviously Zeus is of the realm of the order. Is that making sense? I know there's 3 different words for sin or evil in Greek that's oftentimes used. Poneros, harmatia, and kakos. So this is kind of the chaotic kind. Hope that makes sense. You notice there's always this division between the realm of order and the realm of chaos. So what will happen is the long story short, is that we have to deal with our own titanic flesh, our own nature, and recognize our Dionysian spirit, focus on that to be released. So that's kind of the idea. But what's interesting about it is Dionysus, he's kind of chaotic too, isn't he? So I mean, you got Apollo, he seems to be that of order, and then Dionysus is kind of like the frenzy, wild, crazy. But I guess it's a wild crazy that's a good kind of crazy, not an evil kind of crazy. Does that make sense? So but then again, because you have this idea of intoxication and craziness going on in the Eleusinian Mysteries, as you guys notice, and that's why I brought it up. Here on your way to Sister, Mother, that being Persephone or Demeter. Okay, anyway, so they're on their way, and who's the guide? Who's the one who's bringing them to this other realm across the liminal, the liminal space of the two rivers and everything else? It's Dionysus, right? So Dionysus is the one who brings us into this other realm, this mysterious realm. And maybe it's the idea that we have to leave rational thought to be able to encounter that which is beyond our comprehension, right? It's beyond our ability. So we can't use our natural ordered minds. It's the same thing that we had with Cybele, the great mother goddess, right? It's the same thing where she's very natural. She can be very chaotic because nature is chaotic. Dionysus is chaotic. But at the same time, it speaks to an ancient, early mystery of what life is about. And it goes into the factor that we have to go through these seasons. And are these seasons stable? Right? Last I checked, pretty much, especially this year, right? Last year, right? Nature's not known to be stable. So these natural forces cannot be stable. And obviously the seasons always change. Is this helpful? Right? So you're going to have, so Persephone is still, I know we think of her as a chthonic goddess, but hey, you know what? She spends half the year up here too. So she is also a goddess connected to this realm. She's the threshold in between, the liminal space between order and chaos, between life and death, and between, of course, the wonderful fruititious realm of the spring and the summer, to the realm of the death of the fall and the winter, with Demeter connected to that, right? Because remember, Persephone's that tether, right? When she goes away into the underworld, Demeter goes, I'm not going to be producing anything. That's not happening. And when she comes back, I produce. So the two queens, right, work together as a unit, and you can't separate them. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I was gonna ask about how Dionysus introduces the truth to Persephone, but you answered.
Answer the question? Yeah.
Have you heard though any of the songs from the video game Hades? It's literally about Zagreus escaping the underworld.
No, I haven't heard the songs from the video game. What's it called? Hades. No, I haven't.
There's a song, and it's Orpheus singing about the
So there's a song where Orpheus is singing about
the Orpheus mysteries.
the Orphic mysteries.
Yeah, and it's especially about Zagreus' roots, and I never understand them, so now I fully understand.
Oh, the Zagreus, yeah, Zagreus, Dionysian, yeah. So now it makes a lot of sense. No, but for my next talk, I actually used a book on Orphic mysteries, and the whole thing is just poetry from that time, and I'm using that as my text. So what I like to do when I put together talks, you want to know my secret, is that, and that's why they always seem really different, maybe overly dense, is I always start with the primary sources first. And I gather all the primary sources without the secondary sources. Just do that. Okay, I'm done with that now, because I have a whole bunch more I didn't talk about, but time is of essence. Then what I do is I go, okay, now I'm going to put my archaeology head on. and I go into the archaeological, evidential aspect. And then after I do that, only then do I move into the commentary. So that way I make sure, so I don't use the secondary sources to get into the materials. I use the primary sources first and work myself from the primary forces outward into of course the archaeology, which is our evidential, and then of course the secondary sources. So I think that makes for different kinds of talks. That's why you guys end up with such dense materials that you're just like, wow, there's just so much here. It's like, well, because I want the ancients to speak first, and then second. Like even I'm reading from Nonus, right? You're going, I've never heard this before. Well, most likely you wouldn't have, right? He's going to be a footnote on a page, and they'll be after it. They'll say, well, there are some stories where it says that Zeus, wanted to get with Persephone. See this author, see Nonus, and that's it. And that's like, no, I'm the kind of person who says, well, let's take a look at Nonus. Let's read what he has to say and work the other direction. And I think it does add quite a bit. Does that make sense? And then the other parts where I can't say everything, I summarize it, in my own words. So anyway, that's my methodology. So you're going to hear things you wouldn't ordinarily hear. And I do the same thing with the Orphic Mysteries quite a bit. So you're going to learn about the Orphic Mysteries from the initiates a lot, by the way. They left a lot of writings. So you're going to hear their words in 2 weeks. Does that sound good? Sound right up your alley? Yes. Any other questions? Yes. Stygian, the Stygian goddess. Yeah. So yeah, but the river. Yeah, she's the river Styx. So she is, and because all rivers, if you go back far enough, all rivers are connected to animism, connected to spirits, and so often female spirits. So the naiads and others, right? So you have special river spirits, and usually they are understood as female. And so obviously Styx, such an important river, will have a very important goddess spirit connected to her. But I think it's interesting that you have the river Styx together with Zeus, right? Producing, he's the sky god with the underworld river. I don't know. It's a fascinating thought. So, any other questions? Yeah, it represents the amount of months that she's. Oh, I should have mentioned that. The amount of months that she's stuck down there. So the idea is if you have one seed, she'll be down there for 1 month, but she's supposed to be there for half the year. So 6 makes sense. So for each one of the months that she's stuck down there. So that's the answer. Yeah. So 6. So one seed is not that potent. Oh. But I think later on people favor the one seed idea because it's just the idea that if she just withheld and just didn't have that one seed that trapped her for all eternity, being stuck half the year in the underworld. But the reality is that I think I like the 6th seed better. It's like I'm hungry. Let's have another one. Yeah, it does. It does. This will be, I don't have time. This would be a wonderful talk too at some point, someday. A talk on the sacred aspects of the pomegranate, in ancient history. But anyway, just throw that one at you. Anyway, so any other questions? Yes.
So the parallels.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really interesting to see.
Can you see the connection?
Because Persephone would be Gaia, and then the things that Gnosis said would play into that as well.
In fact, Persephone it figures herself into Middle and Neoplatonism. Yeah. So she gets herself in there and referred to in different contexts. uh, and in connection to the realm of the soul or the material world. So she's there as well. So anyway, on the other cases they'll have Hecate, which we didn't talk a lot about. So Hecate with the torches. I think it's interesting because some of the stories has has Demeter with the torches looking all over the earth and looking for. But I think it's interesting because the torchbearer is also Hecate, and she's the one who goes searching, and she's in some versions of the story, she's the one that goes even into the underworld to see for herself that Persephone is down there to confirm, and in some cases Demeter's with her. But you're going to have all these various kinds of stories. One thing about the Greeks and Romans, they love to tell a story and they love to keep people interested. And so they always add new elements or new little bits and pieces. But I think it makes it fun. Yeah. Huh?
The torch part, does that like answer to like a lantern? Like the light there?
It's the idea of Phosphorus. The idea of Phosphorus, it's the light bringer. So so you're gonna have that. In fact, there's even I'm not sure if I have my notes here, but there are connections also with Hecate in other areas too. Let me see here. I write so much, it's hard to tell, but yeah, you're gonna have stories where Hecate is connected with Zeus in some level, and that she's an underworld deity in connection to. Anyway, it's a long story, but yeah. So, but she's a torchbearer. See, the problem is Hecate is the underworld deity, right? She's the chthonic deity. She is the one, but she's also the one of the thresholds. She is of the three-way crossings. So, are you seeing where I'm going with this one? So, she is still kind of on the realm between the realm above and the realm below, just like Persephone. So just to save time, we'll just say that in some cases, they'll have people who worship Persephone Hecate, and they'll throw them together. Does that make sense? And they'll call her the dark Persephone. You want me to give you the context for it? I'll gladly tell you right now. It's called the Greek magical papyri. The Greek magical papyri, you'll find Persephone's name will be thrown in with good measure, and Hecate will be thrown in there, and the darker Artemis. They'll throw everything in, but there is a connection there. Does that help? So yeah, so these magical spells, it's like, well, hey, we're just trying to refer to some kind of infernal dark goddess that's able to go to this realm and intervene, and so. These people who are writing up these magical spells, they don't have somebody saying, okay, this is Persephone and this is Hecate. They'll just say, I'll use whatever words necessary. But speaking of words, did you guys notice a weird theme that most people I haven't seen before emphasized, woven throughout this whole talk? Did you guys catch it?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, isn't it because a lot of people were also scared to say Hades' name?
Yes.
Because speaking the name of the god of the underworld or the goddess will invoke their wrath on you.
Right. So what you've noticed for those who are still are they still there? Still people there?
Yes.
Okay. Hello guys. Hi in Zoom. Thank you for being here. So what will happen is the question goes to the idea of the name of Persephone. The kind of theme that I've kind of woven through here is that her name is a power name, and it seems to be forbidden, and so people will use other words other than her name in its place. So they'll say core instead, or use some other word. I thought it was interesting. With Arcadia, we have Despoia, right? Despoia, they have that version of Persephone has its own mysterious name as well. It's not Persephone, it's another one, but the guy who's writing it says, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to. So the idea is that these names are connected to powers. That if you say them, they move things changes things. These are power words, right? And you got to be careful. And I'm okay. Don't worry, because I'm doing a presentation on this. So I'm like the Tiresias. Wait, no, maybe that's not good because they met him down in the underworld. Okay, okay. Anyway, I'm kind of like the person who's telling you about Tiresias. Why did I choose that name? Okay, I'm telling you about this ahead of time, so you know that there is a controversy there in ancient times, that we don't want to use these names without reverence and within a context that is holy. Oh, I forgot to read something to you since you're still here. You know, and the Eleusinian Mysteries are about. I maybe I'll just go ahead and I'll just go ahead and tell you what is in what's in the basket, the mysteries. You guys want to know? I don't know. I mean, you know. Okay, so here's the mysteries. I'm not sure this is a good thing or not. Just give away these mysteries. Clement of Alexandria. It's his fault. Basically, you have sesame cakes, a pyramid, and spherical cakes, and cakes with many navels. Also, balls of salt and a serpent, and the mystic sign of Dionysus Bacarius. So that's what's in the basket, if you're curious. Also, another version says, no, it's not that. Instead, they had a pomegranate, fig branches, fennel stalks, ivy leaves, round cakes, and poppies, right? You know? So, yeah, so that's pretty good. Another one is you have another version, you follow me, right? Is that we have majorum, a lamp, a sword, and a woman's comb. Okay. So which is it? I mean, it just seems to be quite a bit. Well,
Let's do them all.
so I'm going to tell you what Seneca says. Seneca says, he said that there are holy things that are not communicated all at once. Eleusis always keeps something back to show those who come back again. So, but Seneca says, you know what they do? They show everybody different things. And so you're going, oh, I know the secret. It's this, and this, and you're thinking, that's not what I saw. I'm not going to say, because I was privy to the real. You are probably not initiate. So it's a nice way of keeping everybody thinking that the others are not really initiated. So it's better to remain silent, and so nobody guesses. Is that good? So that's Seneca's answer. Is like, yeah.
They give different baskets to the suspicious members. So they're like, oh, we know who the snitch is.
Yeah, see the snitch. Yeah, see the snitch. You know, that'd be fun to do. You know, it's like, give everybody baskets and then have a variant one to the one that that I'm going to tell everybody. And just watch everybody just go, But yeah, so they're so those are the mysteries. How we understand them. Clement of Alexandria and a few others thought, hey, we're giving away all these secrets, but the problem is there's no interpretation of them. So we've lost the interpretation. So just to tell what's inside of them is still not enough, because there's stories behind all those objects, but we don't know those stories. And so still the mysteries are a secret. And perhaps, as I say this with this intentionally right here, perhaps not even Persephone is the real name. And that's why I don't feel too worried. And I keep laughing. You're all going, great. Tell me what it is. It's like, no, Miss Ty. I'm staying silent. Okay. Is this helpful? Is this good? Yeah. Okay. Any other any other questions? Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, people on Zoom. And I hope you enjoyed Persephone. Next time we're going to be doing the Orphic Mysteries. So that should be pretty interesting. And I believe after that, we're doing Lovecraft. After that, I'm doing Lovecraft. So I've already started my research. I'm already like 6 or 7 pages in. So that's for Halloween. You got to do, you know. So I'm going to go into his life and how those ideas, his life actually inspired his writings and who he was. All I have to say is that Lovecraft, he wrote his first book at the age of 6. And it was a young man's odyssey. And the poetry is amazing at 6 years of age. So anyway, and he's inspired by Greco-Roman mythology. So we'll go. So it looks like it seems like we're doing a different topic, but we're really doing a lot of the same because he loves Greco-Roman mythology and he loves ancient Rome. And we're going to go into his passions and his interests. This is cool. All right. Have a great night.